As I walked out one day, I met an aged man along the way. His head was bald, his beard was grey, his clothing made of the cold earth and clay. His clothing made of the cold earth and clay. I said, old man, what man are you? What country did you belong unto? My name is Death, hast heard of me? All kings and princes bow down unto me, and you, fair
Act 1.
maid, must come along with me.
Scene 1. A country roadside close to a stile. It is late afternoon and already dusk. May Browning with Harry Moss come slowly forward, come to a stop.
There. You don't need to come no further with I, Harry Moss. You get on quick towards the town afore the night be upon you. And the snow, too.
I don't care much about leaving you like this on the roadside, May. And that's the truth, 'tis.
Don't you take no more thought for I, Harry. 'Tis a good boy as you've been to I since the day when we fell in together. But now there bain't no more need for you to hold back your steps, going slow and heavy when you might run spry and light. For 'tis home as I be come to now, I be. You go your way.
I see naught of any house afore us or behind. 'Tis very likely dusk as is upon us, or mayhappen 'tis the fog getting up from the river.
Look you across that stile, Harry. There be a field path bent there.
I peer through the gloom. Ah, and that there be?
And at t'other end of it a house what's got a garden fence all round.
Ah, and 'tis so. And now, as I comes to look, there be a light shining from out the windows of it too, though 'tis shining dim like in the mist.
'Tis that yonder's my home, Harry. There's the door where I must stand and knock. I draw the shawl over my face and I'm shaken.
I wouldn't take on so if 'twas me.
And did you say as how there was a light in the window? 'Twill be but firelight then, for the old woman she would never bring out the lamp afore that 'twas night, close-handed old she-cat as her was. What 'ud lick up a drop of oil onto the tongue of her as soon as nor it should go wasted.
There, 'tis shining better now, or maybe as the fog has shifted.
'Tis nigh to home as I be, Harry.
And get and stand up out the wet grass there, and I'll go along with you a bit further. 'Twill not be much out of my way, nothing to take no count of.
No, no, Harry, I bain't going to cross that field, nor yet stand at the door knocking till the dark has fallen on me. Why, is it like as I'd let them see me coming over the meadow and going over the gate like this, in my broken shoe, and as I be today?
There. You be one as is too handy with the tongue like. Don't you go for to waste the breath inside of you when you'll be wanting all of your words for as they bides up yonder, and as doesn't know that you'll be coming back.
Get you out upon your way, Harry Moss, for the dark be gathering on us fast, and there be many a mile afore you to the town, where the lamps do shine, and 'tis bright and warm in the places where they sells the drink.
Once I sets off running by myself, I'll get there fast enough, May. But I be going to stop along of you a bit more, for I don't care much about letting you bide lonesome on the road like.
Then sit you down aside of me, Harry, and the heat in my body, which is like flames, shall maybe warm yourn too.
I sit down by her side. 'Tis a fine thing to have a home what you can get in and go to, May, with a bit of fire to heat the limbs of you at, and plenty of victuals as you can put inside. How was it that you was ever come away from it, like?
Ah, and that's what I be asking of myself most of the time, Harry. For 'tis summat like a 12 or 11 years since I shut the door behind me and went out, away from them all, upon the road, so 'twas.
And never seed no more of them, nor sent to say how 'twas with you, nor nothing?
Nor nothing, Harry. Went out and shut the door behind me, and 'twas finished.
Whatever worked on you for to do such a thing, May?
Ah, now, whatever did.
'Tweren't as though you might have been a young wench, flighty like, all for the town, for as they goes up and about the streets of it. For look you here, 'tis an old woman as you be now, May, and has been 20 year or more, I don't doubt.
An old woman be I, Harry. Well, to the likes of you 'tis so, I count. But a 12 year gone by, oh, 'twas a fine enough looking maid as I was then. Only a wild one, Harry, a wild one. All for the free ways of the road and the lights of the fair, and for the sun to rise in one place where I was, and for I to be in t'other where her should set.
I'd keep me breath for when 'twas wanted, if 'twas me.
Come, look I in the face, Harry Moss, and tell I if so be as they'll be likely to know I again up at home.
How be I to tell you such a thing, May, seeing that 'tis but 10 days or less I've been along with you on the road, and seeing that when you was a young wench, I never knowed the looks of you neither.
The hair 'twas bright upon my head 11 years gone by, Harry. 'Twas glancing as might be the wing of a thrush, so 'twas.
Well, 'tis as the frost might lie on a dead leaf now, May, that it be.
And the colour on me was as a rose, and my limbs was straight. 'Twas fleet like a rabbit as I could get about, the days that was then, Harry.
'Tis a poor old bent woman as you be now, May.
Ah, death hath been tapping on the door of my body this long while. But, please God, I can hold me with the very best of them yet, Harry, and that I can. Victuals into the inside of I, and a bit of clothing to my bones, with summat to quiet this cough as doubles of I up. Why there, Harry, you won't know as 'tis me when I've been to home a day or two. Or maybe as 'twill take a week.
I count 'twill take a rare lot of victuals afore you be set up as you once was, May.
Look you in my eyes, Harry. They may not know me up at home by the hair, which is different to what 'twas, or by the form of me, which is got poor and mesh-like. But in the eye there don't come never no change. So look you at they, Harry, and tell I how it do appear to you.
There be darkness lying atween you and me, May.
Then come you close to I, Harry, and look well into they.
Them be set open wonderful wide, and 'tis as though a heat comed out from they. 'Tis not anyone as might care much for to look into the eyes what you've got.
Oh, maybe then them as not'll know as 'tis me, Harry Moss.
I count as they'll be hard put to, and that's the truth.
The note of me be changed too, with this cold what I have, and the breath of me so short. But 'twon't be long, I count, afore they sees who 'tis. There will be change to the eye like. There'll be summat in me as'll tell they, and 'tis not a thing of shape nor of colour as I'll speak for I, but 'tis summat what do come straight out of the hearts of we, and do say better words for we, not what we looks nor tongues of us might tell. You mind me, Harry, there's that which will come out of me as'll bring them to know who 'tis.
Ah, I reckon as you'll not let them bide till they does.
And when they do know, and when they sees who 'tis, I count as they'll be good to me. I count they will. I did used to think of Steve, he was a hard one, and the old woman, what's his mother, hard too, and that it did please him for to keep a rein on me like. But I sees things different now.
'Tis one thing to see by candle and another by day.
For 'twas wild as I was in the times gone by. wild after pleasuring in the noise in the town, and men a looking at the countenance of I, and a turning back for to look again. But hark you here, 'tis powerful changed as I be now.
I count as you be changed from a young woman into an old one.
I'm finished with the road journeying and standing about in the streets on market days, and the talk with men in the drinking places. Men, what don't want to look more nor than once on I now, and what used to follow if 'twasn't only a bit of eyelid as I'd lift on them. Times that is gone.
'Twould take a lot of looking to see you as you was.
Yes, I be finished with all of that now, and willing for to bide quiet at the fireside, and to stay with the four walls round I and the door shut.
I reckon as you be.
And I'm thinking as there'll be rare pleased for I to have I in the house again. 'Twill be another pair of hands to the work like, and when I was young 'twas not on work as I was set much.
I did guess as much.
But when I gets a bit over this here nasty cough, 'tis a strong arm as they'll have working for they. Steve, the old woman, what's his mother, and little Dorry too.
Little Dorry? I ain't heard tell of she.
That's my little baby as was, Harry Moss. I left she crawling on the floor. And now I count as she be growed into a rare big girl. Bless the innocent heart of her.
Whatever led you to do such a thing, I can't think. You must have been drove to it like, weren't you?
'Twas summat inside of me as drove I then. 'Twas very likely the blood of they gypsies which did leap in I, so that when I was tied up to Steve, 'twas as if they had got I shut in a box. 'Twas the bridle on my head and the bit in the mouth of I, and to be held in where I had once gone free. And I turned wild, Harry. The very birds seemed to be calling I from the hedges to come out along of they, and the berries tossing in the wind, and the leaves blowing away quick from where they'd been stuck all summer. All of it spoke to I and stirred I powerful. So that one morning when the sun was up and the breeze running, I comed out into the air, Harry, and shut the door behind I, and 'twas done, so 'twas.
Didn't they never try for to stop you, nor for to bring you back?
No, Harry, they did not.
And where was it you did go to, May, once you was out and the door shut behind you?
Ah, where? To the east, to the south, every part. 'Twas morning with I in that time, and the heart of I was warm. And them as went along of I on the road did cast but one look into the countenance of I. Then 'twas the best as they could give as I might take, and 'twas for no lodging as I did want when dark did come falling.
And yet look you here, you be brought down terrible low, May.
Fine looks of a woman be as grass, Harry, and in the heat of the day they do wither and die. And that what has once been a grand flower in the hand of a man is dropped upon the ground and spat upon, maybe. So 'twas with I.
Don't you take on so, May. Look you here. You be come to the end of your journey in this day, and that you be.
Ah, 'tis so, 'tis so. And 'tis rare glad as them'll be to see I once again. Steve, he's a hard man, but a good one. And I'll tell you this, Harry Moss, he'll never take up with no woman what's not me, and that he won't. I never knowed him much as look on times gone past, and 'twill be the same now as ever, I reckon. And little Dorry, 'twill be fine for her to get her mammy back, I warrant, so 'twill. The old woman, well, I shan't take it amiss if her should be dead like. Her was always a smartish old vixen to I, that her was, and her did rub it in powerful hard as Steve was above I in his station and that. God rest the bones of she, for I count her'll have been lying in the churchyard a good few years by now. But I bain't one to bear malice, and if so be as her's above ground, 'Tis a rare poor old wretch with no poison to the tongue of she, as her'll be this day, so 'tis.
Look you here. The snow's begun to fall and 'tis night. Get up and go into the moor yonder. 'Tis thick dark now, and there be no one on the road to see you as you do go.
Help I to get off the ground then, Harry, for the limbs of me be powerful weak.
I lift her up. The feel of your body be as burning wood, May.
Put me against the stile, Harry, and then let I bide alone.
Do you let me go over along the field of you, May, just to the door?
No, no, Harry, get you off to town and leave me to bide here a while in the quiet of my thoughts.
There's something in me what doesn't care about leaving you so, May.
And if ever you should pass this way come springtime, Harry, when the bloom is white on the trees and the lambs in the meadows, come you up to the house yonder, and maybe as I'll be able to give you somewhat to keep in remembrance of me. For today, 'tis empty-handed as I be.
I don't want nothing from you, May. I don't.
There, Harry, 'tis come back to my mind. Take you this bread. And tonight, when you eats of it, think on me, and as how I be home with Steve a holding of my hand, and little Dorry close against me, and plenty of good victuals, with a bed to lie upon warm. There, Harry, take and eat.
I take the bread. I count 'twill all be well with you now, May.
I warrant as 'twill, for I be right to home. But go you towards the town, Harry, for 'tis late. And God go with you, my dear, now and all time.
I'll set off running then. For the night 'tis upon us, May, and the snow 'tis thick in the air.
Act 2, Scene 1. The living room in the Brownings' cottage. To the right of the fireplace is a door leading upstairs. Chairs are grouped around the hearth. Jane Browning is ironing a dress by the light of a candle. Dorry leans against the table, watching her.
I put aside the iron. There, you take and lay it on the bed upstairs. And mind you does it careful, for I'm not a going to iron it again.
Don't the lace look nice, Grandma?
You get along upstairs and do as I says, and then come straight down again.
Couldn't I put it on once, Grandma, just to see how it do look on me?
And get it all creased up before tomorrow, whatever next. You go and lay it on the bed this minute. Do you hear?
I leave the room by the door to the right. I'd like to put it on just once, I would.
I blow out the candle and put away the iron and the ironing cloth. I stir up the fire and then I sit down by it.
I come back into the room. Dad's cleaning up himself ever so. I heard the water splashing something dreadful as I went by his door.
'Tis a smartening of himself up for this here dancing as he be about, I reckon.
I sit down on the stool. I'd like to go along too and see the dancing up at the schools tonight, I would.
Oh, and whatever next I should like to know.
And wear my new frock what's ironed and the beads what Miss Sims gived me.
I look out of the window. I'm thinking as we shall get some snow by and by. Just come over so dark all of a sudden.
Couldn't I go along with it, Grandma, and wear my new frock and beads too? I never seen them dance the old year out yet, I hadn't.
Oh, get along with you, Dorry. 'Tis many a year afore you'll be of an age for such foolishness. And that's what I calls it, this messing about with dancing and music and I don't know what.
Katie Sims be younger nor me, and she's let to go, she is.
You bain't Katie Sims and no she you. And if the wedding what's tomorrow isn't enough stuff to stuff you up with nonsense, I don't know what is.
I wish it was tomorrow now, Grandma, I do. Shall you put on your Sunday gown first thing, or wait till just before we goes to church?
Oh, where your tongue do go. Take and bide quiet a bit, if you knows how.
I shall ask Dad if I may go along with him and Miss Sims to the dance, I shall. Dad's got that kind to me since last night. He gave me a sixpence to buy sweets this morning when I hadn't asked. And won't it be nice when Miss Sims comes to live and when you have someone to help you in your work, Grandma?
Well, 'tis to be hoped as 'twill be all right this time.
This time, Grandma? Why wasn't it all right when Dad was married afore then?
I get the lamp from a shelf. I don't light up as a rule till 'tis 6 o'clock, but I count it's a bit of the snow coming as I have darkened the air like.
Grandma, isn't Miss Sims nice looking? Don't you think? And I'd like to wear my hair like hers and have earrings hanging from me and shaking when I moves my head, I would.
I set the lamp on the table. Here, fetch me the matches, do.
I bring the matches. Was my mammy nice looking like Miss Sims, Grandma?
I'm one as goes by other things nor looks, for like as not, 'tis fine looks as is the undoing of most girls as has them. Give me a plain face and an heart what's pure, I says, and 'tis not far out you'll be.
Was my mammy's heart pure, Grandma?
I light the lamp.
I lean at the table watching her. Was my mammy's?
A loud knock on the outside door.
Who's that come bothering round? Run and see, Dorry, there's a good child.
It'll be Grandma Vashti, I dare say. She do mostly knock at the door loud with her stick. I run to the window and look out. 'Tis her and the snow white all upon her.
Of
I
all
go
the meddlesome old women, why can't her bide till as wanted?
I open the door wide.
I comes into the room, leaning on my stick.
Well, Vashti Reed, and what brings you down from the hill today? Should have been better had you been at home with the dark coming on and the snow.
I stand looking round the room.
Sit down, Granny, by the fire, do.
'Tis in the house and out of it as I have went, and down to the pool where the ice do lie, and up in the fields where 'tis fog, and there be summat in what I drives I onward, as might the wind, and nowhere may the bones of me rest this day.
If it's to talk your foolishness as you become, you'd best have stopped away. Sit you down, Vashti Reed, and behave sensible, and maybe as I'll get you somewhat warm to drink presently.
Yes, Granny, sit down along of we.
I sit down by the fire, leaning on my stick. And in the night when I was laid down, against the window pane it fled 3 times. 3 times it fled, and it beat the pane as though 'twould get in. And I up and I opened the window, and the air, it ran past me, and it was black, and there was naught upon it but the smell of a shroud. And then I knowed.
What did you know, Granny?
Summat lost. Summat lost what was trying to get safe away.
Safe away? From what, Granny?
And there be one that walks abroad in the night time, what holds in the hand of he a staff, greater nor this stick that I hold here, and the knife to it be as long again as twice.
Well, Granny, I'll be afraid to go across the garden after dark, I shall.
What do you want to go and put that there into the child's head for? I'd like for Steve to hear you talking of such stuff.
I sat me down at the table, but the victuals was the sand in the mouth, and the drink did put coldness within I. And when the door was closed, 'twas as if one did come running round the house and did beat upon it for to be let in. And then I did go for to open it. But the place outside was full of emptiness, and 'twas they old carrion crows what did talk to me out of the storm.
Oh, how you do go on, to be sure. Why don't you spink of summat what's got sense in it? Come, don't you know as Steve, his wedding day, 'tis tomorrow as ever is?
'Tis the new year too, Granny, as well as Dad's marriage.
Be this house made ready for a marrying then?
Why, of course it be, Granny. Don't you see how 'tis cleaned and the new net curtains hung in the windows, and the bit of jug against the door where the old ones always trip me up?
I see naught but what is more like a burial here. So 'tis. And 'tis a burial as I've carried in my heart as I come down from the hills.
Granny, you'll be forced to bide the night along of we, 'cause the snow be falling thick, and 'twill likely as not as you'll lose your way if you start to go for home again when 'tis snowing.
Oh, the old thing may as well bide the night now she be come. Hark you, Vashti, 'twill save you the journey down tomorrow, like, if you bides the night, and the chimney corner is all as you ever wants.
What should I be journeying down tomorrow for, Jane Browning?
Why, Granny, 'tis Dad's wedding day tomorrow, and 'tis a white frock with lace to it as I'm going to wear, and beads what Miss Sims gived me, and the shoes what was new, except for being born to church 3 times. Shall I fetch them all and show to you, Granny?
Yes, run along and get 'em, Dorry. Very likely 'twill give her thoughts a turn looking at the things, seeing as her be in one of her nasty moods today when you can't get a word what isn't foolishness out of her.
I ran upstairs.
Was there a telling of a marriage?
Oh, yes, Vashti Reed, and you know all about it, only you don't trouble for to recollect nothing but you dreams of yourself in the night. 'Tis our Steve what's going to marry Annie Sims tomorrow.
Steve Browning?
Oh, I haven't patience with old gypsy. Yes, Steve, and 'tis a 12-month or more as you'd knowed of it.
Our Steve? What's husband to my May?
'Tis a fine thing to fetch up May this evening, that is. May what went out tromping along the road instead of biding at home to mind the house and child. 'Tis how you did breed her up, Vashti Reed, what led her to act as her did. And if you'd bred her different, 'twould have all been the same, for what's in the blood is bound to out and show. And when you picks a weed and sets it in the room, it ain't no flower you must be looking for.
'Tis somewhat like a 12 years since her went. But in the blinking of an eye, the latch might be raised, and she comes through the door again. God bless the head and feet of she.
Oh, there you are, Vashti, talking so foolish. A bad herb like she was bound for to meet her doom, and 'twas in the river up London way where her body of her was catched, floating, on the same petticoat to it as I've seen on May a score of times. Don't you recollect how 'twas Parson as brought the news to we?
'Tain't now with parsons as I do old, nor with what may come from the mouths of they neither.
And Steve, I knowed what was in his mind when Parson was gone out. Oh, 'twas not so much as he did say, being a man that hasn't got many words to his tongue, but he took and fetched down his big coat what to hang up yonder, and told I to put a bit of black to the sleeve of it. Leastways, he didn't speak the words, but I seed what he was after. And I took and I sewed a bit on, and he's wore it ever since till yesterday. And that's 11 year ago it be. So there.
Her be moving about upon the earth, her be, and I seems to feel the tread of she at night time and by day as well. Her bain't shrouded nor boxed, nor no churchyard sod above the limbs of she. You take my word for it. And there shall come a day when the latch will rise, and her be standing among us, and a calling on her child and husband what's forgotten she.
Oh, for goodness sake, Vashti, have done speaking about such things tonight. If Steve was to hear you, I wouldn't wonder he was to put you out the door and into the snow. And 'tis most unfitting to talk so afore the child.
Come back to I, May. Come back to I. There ain't no one what thinks on your name nor wants you here, save your own mother. Come back to I.
Well, thank you to shut your mouth, old Vashti. 'Tain't nothing to be proud of as you've got, and 'twill be better if you was to be less free with your orring. Look, here's Dorry coming.
See, Granny, I've been and put it on for to show you better. See the lace, isn't it nice? And the beads too. I didn't stop for to put on my shoes, nor my new stockings, nor my hat what's got a great long feather all round of it.
You bad naughty girl, Dorry. You'll crease and tumble that frock so it's not fit to be seen tomorrow. Whatever did you go and put it on for?
So as that Gran should see something pretty, and so as she should come out of her trouble. Gran's always got some trouble in her mind, hadn't you, Gran?
12-month year, 12 year gone by, my child.
I'll give it to you if you start off again.
A 12 year gone by.
A 12 year gone by? Then what, Gran?
'Tis more than 11 years since her went it out the door, my child. Your poor mammy, out of the door, out of that door. And likely as not, 'twill be feet first as there shall be brought back in again.
Granny, Was my poor mammy what's dead nice looking like Miss Sims as is going for to marry Dad tomorrow?
Oh, 'twas grand as a tree in full leaf, and the wind a-moving through all the green of it. Was your mammy, my child?
And did she have fine things to her? Nice gowns and things like Miss Sims' granny?
'Twas the looks of her and the love of finery and pleasuring what was her undoing. As 'twill be the undoing of you too, Dorry, if you don't take care. 'Tis she as you favours and none of your father's people. More's the pity. And 'tis more thoughtful and serious you'll have to grow if you don't want to come to harm. You take and go right up and off with that frock. Don't you hear me?
Oh, I wanted to be let to go to the dancing now I got it on, I did.
Dancing, there you are. Dancing and finery, 'tis all you do think on. And 'tis plain to see what's got working in the inside of you, Dorry. 'Tis a drop of bad blood as you got from she what bore you. But I might as well speak to that door for all you cares. Only hark you here. You'll be sorry one of these days as you hadn't minded me better. Then it will be too late.
I come down the stairs and push open the door. Well, Mother, what's up now? Gran, you here? Why, Dorry, what you been a-crying for?
I want to be let to go to the dancing, Dad, now that I got my frock on and all. Oh, I want to be let to go.
Well, Mother, what do you say? 'Twouldn't hurt for she to look in about half an hour. Nanny and me, we could bring her back betimes.
Oh, Dad, I want to go. 'Twas only for a minute.
There, you shall go. Say no more about it.
I never knowed you give in to her so foolish like this afore, Steve.
Well, Mother, 'tain't every day as a man's married, that 'tain't.
And so you're to be wed come tomorrow, Steve. They tells me is you're to be wed.
That's right enough, Gran.
I'd stand up, and there be no resting in me today, Steve. There be summat as burns quick in the bones of my body that will not let me bide. And 'tis steps as I hears on the roadside and in the fields, and 'tis a bad taste in my victuals. And I must be moving and appearing about and taking cold water into my mouth for to do away with the thing on my tongue, which is the smell of death. So 'tis.
Oh, now she's off again. Come sit you down, Vashti Reed, and I'll give you somewhat as'll likely warm you and keep you quiet in your chair for a while. Just you wait till I gets the water boiling. I begin to stir up the fire and I set a kettle on it.
Here's Miss Sims coming up the path, and Rosie too. Oh, they're wrapped up all over, 'cause it's snowing. I'll open. I run to the door and unlatch it.
Act 2, Scene 2. Annie and Rosie Sims come in, shaking the snow from them and unbuttoning their cloaks.
Which I take from them and hang on the door.
It's going to be a dreadful night. The snow's coming down something cruel.
There won't be many to the dance if it keeps on like this, will there?
Get you to the fire, both of you. Warm yourselves before we sets out again.
Miss Sims, Miss Rosie, I'm going along with you to the dance. Dad says I may.
Oh, bless the child. However her has worked upon her father and he's so strict, I don't know.
Well, you be got up fine and grand, Dorry. I should hardly know 'twas you. Good evening, Mrs. Reed. My eyes was very near blinded when I first got in out of the dark, and I didn't see as you was there.
Good evening, Mrs. Reed. And how be you keeping this cold weather?
What be you a-telling I of?
We was saying, how be you in this sharp weather, Mrs. Reed?
How be I?
Yes, Mrs. Reed. How be you a-keeping out as come over such nasty weather?
And how should an old woman be, and her one child out in the rain and all the wind, and driv there too by them as was laid like snakes in the grass about the feet of she, ready for to overthrow she when I should have got rotten right to the time of weakness.
Take no account of what she do say, girls, but sit you down in the warm and bide till I gets the time to take a look on the clothes which you have upon you. I move about and put tea things on the table. I be just a-going to make a cup of tea for the old woman, with a drop of something strong to it as will keep her from using her tongue so free till morning time.
Poor old woman. 'Tis a sad thing when folks do come to such a pass as she.
And ain't got their proper sense to them nor nothing. but she's better off nor a poor creature what we saw crouching below the edge as we was coming across the meadow. Why, I says to Annie, oh, it must be bad to have no home to bide in such a night as this. Isn't that so, Mrs. Browning?
You're right there. You're right.
I wouldn't much care to be upon the road tonight, would you, Steve?
At that hour when the old year be passing out and dark on all the land, the graves shall open and give up the dead which be in they. And standing in the churchyard, you may read the face to each as the corpses go by. As many a night as I've stood and have looked into they, when them did draw near to I, but never the face I did seek.
I've made a cup of tea and poured something into it from a bottle. Here, VASHTI Reid, here's a nice cup of tea for you. Take and drink it up, and very likely 'twill warm the inside of you. For I'll lay as you haven't seen a mouthful of naught this day.
That's right, that's it. When folks do leer, 'tis a powerful lot of fancies who do get from the stomach to the heads of they.
Oh, Miss Sims, you do look nice. Look, Grandma, at what Miss Sims have got on.
Which of you be clothed for the marriage?
Oh, get along with you, Gran. 'Tis for the dance up at the school as they become.
Come you here, or what's to wed our Steve? Come you here and let I look at you. My eyes bain't so quick as they was once, many a tear have clouded they, but come you here.
Go along to her, Miss Sims. Granny wants to look at your nice things.
Here I be, Mrs. Reid.
You the one what's going to wed our Steve come New Year?
That's it, Mrs. Reid. That's it.
And be these garments which you be clothed in for marriage or for burial?
Come, Granny, have another cup of tea. Annie, don't you take no count of she, 'tis worry that has have caused the mind of she to wander a bit. She don't mean anything by it.
All right, Steve, she don't trouble me at all. 'Tis be hoped as I shall make a good wife to Steve, Mrs. Reid.
Steve? What does Steve want with another wife? And he got one already, which is as a rose among the south thistles. What does Steve want with a new one for?
And with that, she falls asleep.
Come on, girls, I can't stand no more of this. Let's get off and call into George's as we do go by.
We did meet Mr. Davis as we was coming along, and he said as how it wouldn't be many minutes before he joined us here, Steve.
That's right, then we'll bide a bit longer till George do call for we. Only 'tis more nor I can stand when this old lady gets her tongue moving.
Why, look, Gran's fell asleep. Oh, Miss Sims, now that Gran's dropped off and can't say none of her foolish things any more, do stand so as Dad and Grandma can see the frock which you've got on for the dance.
Oh, Dorry, you're a little torment, that's the truth.
Well, Steve?
Well, Rosie?
Haven't you got nothing as you can say, Steve?
What be I to say, Rose?
Well, something of how you think she looks, of course.
Oh, 'tis all right, I suppose.
All right. Oh, is that about as all you've got seen? Why, bless you, Steve. Where you have gone and hid your tongue, I should like to know.
Well, there bain't nothing wrong, be there?
Of course there isn't, but I never did see such a man as you, Steve. Why, I don't believe as you'd know whether Annie has a pair of eyes to her face or not, nor if they be the same colour one to t'other.
I sees enough for me. I sees as Annie as the girl as I picked out of the whole world, and I know that tomorrow she and I is to be made man and wife, and that be pretty nigh enough for me this night, I reckon.
Oh, Miss Sims, do you hear what Dad is saying? Oh, I wonder what I should feel if 'twas me that was going to be married.
You get and ask Annie how 'tis with her, Dorry. I could tell you a fine tale of how as she do lie tossing half the nights, and of the candles that's burnt right down to the very end of them, I could.
Don't you go for to listen to her, Dorry, nor Steve neither. She's that flustered herself about the dance tonight that she scarce do know what she's a-saying of. But suppose you was just to ask her what she's got wrapped so carefully in that there paper in her hand.
Oh, Rosie, whatever is it?
What's that you got hold on now, Rosie?
Come, show them all, Rose.
I slowly unfold the paper and show them all a hothouse carnation and a fern. There 'tis then.
Oh, my Rosie, isn't it beautiful? Be you going to wear it to the dance?
No, Dorry, 'tisn't for me.
You just ask her who for it is then, Dorry.
Who is it for, Rosie? Who is it for?
No, I'm not going to tell none of you. I wrap it up carefully again.
I'll tell then, for you.
No, you shan't, Annie. That you shan't.
That I shall then. Come you here, Dorry, I'll whisper it in your ear.
I know who it is. I know. 'Tis for Mr. Davis. For Mr. Davis. Think of that, Dad. The flower 'tis for George Davis.
Oh, Annie, how could you?
George.
Who named George? There was but one man as was called by that name, and he courted my girl till she was faint and weary of the sound and shape of me. And so on a day when he was come, her just...
And gone off again on her tails.
I crossed to the hearth and put a shawl over the head of VASHTI, who falls asleep again.
What's this, Rose? I hadn't heard tell of this afore. Be there aught going on with you and George then?
No, Steve, there isn't nothing in it much, except that George and me, we walked out last Sunday in the evening, like, and 2 or 3 times before.
And is it that you be a keeping of that flower for to give to George then?
Well, 'tis for George, as I've saved it out of some what the gardener up at Squire had give me.
'Tis a powerful many years since George you went a courting. I never knowed him so much as look on another maid. I didn't, since...
Well, Steve, I'm sure there's no need for you to be so upset over it. 'Tis nothing to you who George walks out with or who he doesn't.
You said as I was upset, Rose?
Well, look at the long face what you've pulled. Annie, if 'twas me, I shouldn't much care about marrying a man with such a look to him.
What's up, Steve? What's come over you like all of a minute?
'Tis naught, Annie, naught. 'Twas somewhat of past times what comes into the thoughts of me, but 'tis naught. And Rose, if so be as 'twas you as George is after, I wish him to have luck. And with all my heart I would, for George and me, well, we two has always stuck close one to t'other, as you knows.
Oh, that you has. George and you and George.
All right, there's someone coming up now.
Well, let me open it. Let me open it. I run across the room and lift the latch.
I stands in the doorway, shaking the snow from myself, and then I comes into the room.
I'm going to the dance, Mr. Davis. Look, haven't I got a nice frock on?
Good evening, George. How be you tonight?
Nicely, Steve, nicely. Oh, good evening, Mrs. Browning. Miss Sims, good evening. Yes, Steve, I'll off with me coat, for 'tis pretty well sprinkled with snow like.
A Happy New Year to you, Mr. Davis.
And that's the things which ain't no luck in it if it's said before the proper time, Rosie.
Well, but 'tis New Year's Eve, isn't it?
Ah, so 'tis. And a terrible nasty storm as ever I knowed. 'Twas comed up very nigh to my knees, the snows, as I was crossing of the meadow. And there lay some poor thing sheltering below the edge, with a bit of sacking throwed over her. I count 'tis very near buried alive as anyone would be as slept out in such a night.
I reckon 'twould be so 'twould. But come you in and give yourself a warm. And mother, what do you say to getting us a glass of cider all round before we set out for the dancing?
What do you want to go taking drinks here for? When 'tis free, you'll get them up at the school.
Just a drop for to warm we through. Here, I'll fetch it myself straight away.
No, you don't. I'll have no one meddling in the pantry, save it's myself. Dorry, give me that there jug.
I take a jug from the dresser. Here it is, Grandma. Shall I light the candle?
So long as you hold the matches careful.
Well, 'tis to be hoped that the weather will change afore morning.
We shall want a bit of sunshine for the bride.
That I shall, but it don't look much as though we should get it.
I go out of the room with Dorry.
Sit you down, George, long a wee. 'Tis right pleased as I be for to see you here tonight.
Well, Steve, I bain't one for a lot of words, but I be powerful glad to see you look as you does. And 'tis all joy as I wishes you and her what's to be your wife tomorrow.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Davis. I shall do my best for Steve, and a girl can't do no more, can she?
And so you're going to church along of Steve, Mr. Davis?
'Tis as Steve do wish, but I be summit after a cow what has broke into the flower gardens. places where there be many folk got together, and I among they.
Oh, come, Mr. Davis.
'Tis with me as though 'twere all hoof and horn as I was made of. But Steve, he be more used to mixing up things with equality folks and such things, and he do no better nor I how to carry hisself in parts when the crowd be thick of them.
Very likely 'tis a shoeing of them into their places of a Sunday, and a ringing of the bell and a helping of the vicar along with the service like, as has made Steve so easy.
Bless you, Mr. Davis. You sees a good bit of the gentry too in your way, when you goes into houses as it might be the squires for to put up a shelf or mend a window and I don't know what.
Oh, well, them caddling sort of jobs don't much agree with I, Miss Rose. And when I gets inside one of they great houses, where the maids do pad about in boots what you can't hear, and do speak as though 'twere church and parson at his sermon, I can't think of naught but how 'twill feel for to be out in the open again. Why, bless you, I do scarce fetch my breath in one of they places from fear as there be too much sound to it, and the noise of me own hammer do very near scare I into fits.
Well, Mr. Davis, who would ever have thought it?
I come back into the room with Dorry and put the cider and the glasses on the table.
I drinks. Your health, Steve, and yours too, Miss Sims, and many years of happiness to you both.
Thank you, kind George.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Hasn't Miss Sims got a nice frock on her for the dance, Mr. Davis?
Well, I'm blessed if I taken no notice of it, Dorry.
Why, you're worse nor Dad, I do declare. But you just look at Rosie now, Mr. Davis, and ask her what she's got wrapped up in that there paper in her hand.
Oh, Dorry, you little tease, you.
You just ask her, Mr. Davis.
There, 'tis nothing to make such a commotion of. Just a flower, see, Mr. Davis? I knowed as it was one what you was partial to, so I just brought it along with me.
That there bain't for I, be it?
Indeed 'tis, if so as you'll accept it.
Oh, well, 'tis best saved against tomorrow. The freshness will be most gone from it if I were to wear it now.
No, Mr. Davis, 'tis for now, to wear at the dance. Put it on him, Rosie, put it on him.
I tossed the flower across the table to George. Oh, he can put it on himself well enough, Dorry.
I don't know so well about that.
Go on, Rosie, pin it on his coat. Come, it's getting late.
Oh, pin it in quick, Rosie. Come along, and then we can start to the dancing.
Shall I, Mr. Davis?
I gets up and crosses the room.
I take the flower.
I hand her the pin.
I slowly pin the flower to his coat.
I stretch out my hand to Annie. You be so quiet like tonight, Annie. There isn't nothing wrong, is there, my dear?
'Tis only that I'm full of gladness, Steve, as I don't seem to find words to my tongue for the things what I can talk on most days.
And that's how it is with I too, Annie. 'Tis as though I was out in the meadows like, and as though 'twas Sunday, and such a stillness all around that I might think 'twas only me as was upon the earth. But then somewhat stirs in me sudden, and I knows that you be there too, and 'tis my love for you that has put me right away from the rest of them.
Steve, you've had a poor, rough time, I know, but I'll do my best for to smooth it like for you, I will.
See here, Annie, I be comed out of the rain and into the sun once more.
See how fine Mr. Davis do look. See, isn't he grand? Oh, Miss Sims, see how nice the flowers do look what Rosie has pinned to his coat. See, Grandma?
I've enough to do putting away all these glasses would have been messed up. What I wants to know is when I shall get off to bed this night, seeing 'tis late already and none of you gone out yet.
Oh, let us be off, let us be off. And what am I to put over my dress, Grandma, so the snow shan't get to it?
Well, if you go careful and don't drop it in the snow, maybe as I'll wrap my big shawl round you, Dorry, what's hanging behind the door.
Give me my cloak, Steve. Oh, how I do love a bit of dancing. Don't you, Mr. Davis?
I be about as much use in the ballroom as one of they great drag horses, Miss Rose.
Oh, get on, Mr. Davis. I don't believe half of what you do say, no more does Annie.
If Mr. Davis don't know how to dance right, you're the one to learn him, Rose. Come, Dorry, you half along the way. Good night.
Why, Granny's sound asleep, Miss Sims, you know.
And about time too. 'Tis to be hoped we shan't have no more trouble with her till morning.
Just look, why the latch is up.
Whoever's that, I wonder? 'Tis very like someone with a horse what's lost his shoe, Steve.
I guess it is a coffin wanted, sudden George Davis.
Whoever.
I been going to shoe no horses this time of night, not if 'twas a king himself was stood at the door.
If 'tis a corpse, I guess he'll have to wait till the dancing's finished then.
VASHTI groans in her sleep and turns over in the chair, her face to the fire.
Who's there?
Us'll soon see. I unbolts the door and opens it, first a little way and then wide.
I stand in the doorway, my shawl covering my face.
Here's someone that what's missed their way, I count.
Why, 'tis like the poor thing we see beneath the edge, I do believe.
Whatever can she want a coming in here at this time of night?
'Tis one of they dirty roadsters what there's too many about all about the country. Here, I'll learn you to come to folks' houses this time of night, disturbing of a wedding party. You take and get gone. We don't want such as you here, we don't.
I look into Jane's face.
I count 'tis very nice, starved by the cold as she be.
Looks like it, and wetted through to the bone.
Put her out and shut the door, George, and that'll learn the likes of she to come round begging at folks' houses what's respectable.
'Tis poor work shutting the door on such as her this night.
And that is George, and what's more, I been going to do it. 'Tis but a few hours to my wedding, and if a dog was to come to me for shelter, I'd not be one to put him from the door.
'Tain't to be expected as I shall let a dirty tramp bide in my kitchen when 'tis all cleaned up against tomorrow, Steve.
Tomorrow, 'tis my day, mother. And I'll have the choosing of my guests, like. Come you in out of the cold. This night you shall bide fed and warmed, so that maybe in years to come 'twill please you to think back upon the eve before my wedding. I stand back holding the door wide open.
I look from one face and then on another.
I move to Steve's side and lay my hand on his arm.
I draw myself up and comes into the room.
Act 2, Scene 3. The same room 2 hours later. VASHTI Reed seems to be sleeping as before by the fireside. On the settle, May is huddled, her head bent, the shawl drawn over her face. Jane Browning moves about, putting away work things. There is a tap at the outer door and Jane opens it. Steve, Annie and Dorry enter.
Whatever kept you so late, Steve? And me a sitting up for to let you all in and not able to get away to my bed.
Oh, Grandma, it was beautiful. I could have stopped all night, I could. We come away early because Miss Sims, she said as the dancing gave her the headache, but the new year hadn't been danced in yet, it hadn't.
You get and dance off to bed, Dorry. That's what you gotta do, and quickly.
All right, Grandma. Good night, Miss Sims. Good night, Dad. Oh, why, there's Granny, but her's tight asleep, so I shan't say nothing to her. Oh, I do wish as there was dancing and lamps and music playing every night, I do. I go towards the staircase door.
I'm a-coming along directly. Be careful with the candle, Dorry. I open the door for Dorry to go upstairs.
Was there aught as you could do for yonder poor thing?
Poor thing, indeed. A good-for-nothing roadster what's been and got herself full of drink, and that's what's the matter with she. See there how she do lie snoring asleep under the shoal of her. And not a word nor sound have I got out of her since giving her the drop of tea a while back.
Well, she won't do us no harm where she do bide. Leave her in the warm till 'tis daylight, then and let her go away.
She and Gran be about right company for one t'other, I'm thinking.
That they be. Let him sleep it off, and you get up to bed, mother.
That I will, Steve. Be you a going to see Annie safe to home?
Do you bide here, Steve, and let me run back. 'Tis but a step, and I don't like for you to come out into the snow again.
I'm coming along with you, Annie. Get off to bed, mother. I'll be back to lock up and all that in less nor 10 minutes.
All right, Steve. And do you cast an eye round to see as I ain't left nothing out what might get took away. For 'tis poor work leaving the kitchen to roadsters and gypsies and the like. I light the candle and go upstairs.
I take Annie's hand and lead her towards the outer door.
I leans forward and listens intently.
Tomorrow night, Annie,
There'll be no turning out into the snow for us both, Steve.
you'll bide here, Annie, and 'tis more gladness than I can rightly think on, that 'tis. Well, Annie?
Steve. There's somewhat what's been clouding you a bit this night. You didn't know as how I'd seen it, but 'twas so.
Why, Annie, I didn't think as how you'd take notice I was different from ordinary.
But I did, Steve. And at the dancing, there was somewhat in the looks of you which put me in mind of a thing was hurted, Steve. I couldn't upstand so sad with the music going on and all, so I told you as I'd the headache.
Oh, Annie, 'twas thoughts as was too heavy for me. I couldn't seem to get them pushed aside like.
How'd it be if you was to tell me, Steve?
I don't much care for to, Annie, but 'twas thoughts what comed out of time gone by as maybe I'd been a bit too hard with hers was Dorry's mother.
Oh, I'm sure, from all I hear, she had nothing to grumble at, Steve.
And there came a fearsome thought too, Annie, as you might go the same way through not getting on comfortable with me and me being so much older than you and such like. Annie, I couldn't bear for it to happen, so I could not. For I holds to having you aside me always, stronger nor I holds to anything else in the world, and I could not stand it if I was to lose you.
There's nothing in the world as could make you lose me, Steve. For look you here, I don't think as there's a woman on the earth what's got such a feeling as in my heart this night. Of quiet, Steve, and of gladness. Because that you and me is to be wed and to live aside of one another till death do part us.
Them be good words, Annie, and no mistake.
And what you feels about the days gone by don't count, Steve, because they ain't true of you. You was always a kind husband, and from what I've heard folks say, she was one as wasn't never suited to neither you nor yours.
Poor soul, she be dead and gone now, and what I think's one way or t'other can't do she no good. Only 'tis upon me as I could take you tomorrow more glad like, Annie, if so be as I had been kinder to she the time her was here.
Do you go off to bed, Steve? You're regular done up, and that's what 'tis. I never heard you take on this before.
All right, my dear, don't you mind what I'm saying. Very like 'tis bit unnerved as I be this night, but 'tis a good thought, bain't it, Annie, that come tomorrow, at this time, there won't be no more need for us to part. I open the door.
Oh, 'tis dark outside.
They both leave the cottage.
I throw back my shawl as though stifled. I get up and stand bending over VASHTI. I see that she is still sleeping heavily. I go to the door, opens it gently and looks out. I close it and walks about the kitchen, examining everything. I takes up the shawl DORRY has been wearing and clasps it to my face. I hear steps outside and fling it down again on the chair and returns to the settle. I sits huddled in the corner. I wrap myself again in my shawl.
I come back in. Can I get you an old sack or something to cover you up a bit this cold night?
I shake my head.
All right. You can just bide where you be on the settle. 'Tis warmer within nor upon the road tonight, and well, I'll come and let you out when 'tis morning.
I raise both hands in supplication.
Be there somewhat as you wants I can give to you?
Let I bide quiet in the dark. 'Tis all I wants now.
I put out the lamp, then get you off to your drunken sleep again and your dreams.
Act 2, Scene 4. The fire is almost out. A square of moonlight falls on the floor from the window. VASHTI still sleeps in the chimney corner. May is rocking herself to and fro on the settle.
Get off to your drunken sleep and to your dreams. Your dreams, your dreams. Aye, where is it as they have gone, and I'd like for to know? The dreams as come to I when I was laid beneath the hedge. Dreams.
She gets up, feels down the wall in a familiar way for the bellows, blows up the fire and puts some coal on it gently.
'Tis my own hearth when 'tis all said and done.
She turns up the front of her skirt and warms herself. She looks at her mother.
My eyes are open. Ah, so you be comed back, May. I always knowed you would.
How did you know 'twas me then?
'Cause I knowed. There 'tis.
I be that changed from the times when I would sit a warming of myself by this here fire.
Be you changed, May? My eyes don't see nothing of it then.
Ah, I be got into an ugly old woman now, mother. And Steve, he looked in the face of I and didn't so much as think who 'twas. Get off to the drunken sleep of you and to your dreams. 'Twas that what he did say to I.
Well, your old mother do no better nor Steve. Ah, 'twant in no shroud as I seed you, May, nor yet with the sod upon the face of you, but stepping up and down on the earth, through the water that laid on the roads and on the dry where there be high places, and in the grass of the meadows. That's how 'twas I did see you, May.
And I would like to know how 'twas Steve saw I.
Aye, and there was they as did buzz around as thick as wasps in summertime, and as said, she be underground and rotting now, let her be. And they seed in I but a poor old woman what was sleeping in the chimney corner with no hearing to I. Rotting yourself, I says. And I rears up sudden. She be there as a great tree and all the leaves of it full out. And you, snakes in the grass, all of you, there 'tis.
It's a good thought, bain't it, Annie, that tomorrow this time there won't be never need for us to part. In the days when I was a young woman and all the bloom of eye upon me, 'twouldn't have been once as he'd have looked on such as her.
'Tis full of bloom and rare, fine and handsome as you appear now, May. Leastways to my old eyes. And when you goes up to Steve and shows yourself, I take it the door'll be shut in the face of the mealy one what they've all been so took up with this long while. I count it 'twill and no mistake, so 'tis.
I'll hark you here, mother, and 'tis to be wed tomorrow as they be. Wed! The both of them, and me in my flesh and wife to Steve.
Ah, 'tis in her place as the old woman will be set come morning, and that'll be. I count as 'tis long enough as her of mistress over the house. My May's comed back, and her'll show you your place, you old she-fox.
Her ain't changed a hair of her, the old stoat. One of they dirty roadsters, I'll learn you to come disturbing of a wedding party, I will. No, you bain't changed, you hardened old sinner. But the words out of the cruel old mouth of you don't hurt I any more, not they. I be passed out of the power of such as you.
And so I telled she many a time. You bide till my May be comed home, I says. She be already put safe to bed, and 'tis in the churchyard where you do take her rest, says she. Ah, what a great liar that is, the old woman what's Steve's mother.
Ah, she ain't got any more power for to hurt I in the ugly old body of her. I be got beyond she. There be but one or two things as can touch I now, but one or two. And I be struck to the heart, I be, struck to the heart. and fro, back and fro, on the dark of the earth, and where 'tis light was cold and no sound but the steps of I on the road and the fox's bark. 'Twas hot and the white dust smouldered in the mouth of I, and things flying did plague I with the wings of they. But 'twas always the same thought as I had. Some day I shall come back to Steve, I did tell me. And then again, some day I shall get to hold Dorry in my arms. And now I be comed, and Steve, I be struck deep to the heart. 'Tis so struck deep.
You get upstairs to Steve, May. Get you up there. Take the place what's yours.
My place? What's that I want to know? 'Tis another what's got into the nest now, to lie snug and warm within. And 'tis for I to spread the wings of me and to go out into the storm again. So 'tis.
Get you to Steve, May. Let him but look on the form of you and on the bloom, and us'll see what he will do with t'other hussy then. You shall tell they summat about what they be come morning. And your poor old mother, her'll speak too, but hasn't been let sound her tongue these years gone by. And shall know what has to do they, and shall squat upon the floor and hear the truth.
He thought as I was sleeping, but I looked out on her and seed the way his eyes was cast upon the girl. Steve, if you had cast your eyes on me like that but once in days gone by, maybe I'd not have gone out and shut the door behind I.
Get you to Steve, and let him see you with the candle lit. Her ain't no match for ye, young weasel. 'Tis you as has the blood of me and my people, what was grand folk in times gone by. 'Tis you, May, as is the mate for ye, above all them white jowled things what is only at the mouth of they, but the heart running over with poison. Vipers, all of 'em, and she-cats, there 'tis.
Sit you down, mother, and keep the tongue of yours quiet. We don't want for to wake they.
We gotta waken Steve for him to know how you be come home again.
And what's the good of that? Where there bain't so much as a board nor rag but what's been stolen from I.
You go and say to him as 'tis his wife would have come back to take her place. 'Tis time you comed, May. 'Tis time.
I'm thinking 'tis time.
'Tis the lies of they be grow big as wheat stalks. The hardness of their hearts be worse nor death. But 'tis to judgment as they shall be led. Now you be comed home, May, and the hand of God shall catch they when they do crawl like adders upon the earth.
Stop that, mother. I wanted to get at my thoughts.
Oh, be you a going to set on I too, May, now that you be comed home? 'Tis poor work for an old woman like I.
As I was laid beneath the hedge, 'tis cold as my limbs is now, I says, but I shall be warm this night. And the pangs what was in the body of me did fairly quail I. 'Tis my fill of victuals as I shall soon put within, thinks I, and they was laid a bit. The bleakness of the tempest fell on I, but I shan't feel lonesome no longer than this hour, I tells me. For to my thinking, Steve, he was waiting all the time till I should be comed back. And Dorry too. There 'tis. I'd have been content to bide with the door shut, so long as it was shut with they two and me inside the room. I'd have set me down when once my clothes was decent and clean, and put my hands to the work and made a tidy wife of Steve, as good nor better than that there dressed up thing out yonder, and bred Dorry up the right way too, I would. But 'tis done with now, so 'tis.
When 'tis morning and she gets her down, there 'tis my girl as is mistress here, I'll say to her, and 'tis my girl as shall sit cup end of the table, and you get you to the fire corner and bide there, like the poor old woman as you be, spite that you do slip about so spry on the wicked old legs of you.
And I could set she back in her place too, that tricked up flashy thing over the way. I've but to climb the stairs and clap my hand on Steve. Get you from your dreams, I have got but to say, the woman what's yourn be comed home. Her have tasted the cup of death, very near, and her have been athirst and an hungered. But her has carried summat for you in her heart all the way what you wouldn't find in the heart of t'other. No, not if you was to cut it open and search it through. And the right belongs to I to shut the door on t'other hussy, holding Steve till I till death divides I. But too late. There 'tis. I be comed home too late. I rise and take up my shawl. I know a dark place full of water. 'Tis Simon's Pool they calls it, and I warrant as any poor wretch might sleep yonder and be in quiet.
Be you a going up to Steve now?
No, I bain't. 'Tis out from here that I be going, and back onto the road.
Oh, May, my pretty May, you're never going for to leave I. What's such a poor old woman and wronged, cruel? You step aloft and rouse up Steve. He'll never have you go upon the roads again, once he do know as you've come back.
Steve? What's it to Steve whether the likes of I do go or bide? What be there in I for to quell the love of she which Steve's got in him? Dead leaves for new, ditch water for the clear spring.
Give him to drink of it, May.
No, Steve, hark you here. I bain't a-gonna do it. I bain't gonna knock over the spoonful of sweet what you be carrying to your mouth. You take and eat of it in the quiet and get you filled with the honey. Take my way to snatch it from no one, so that the emptiness which I has in me shall be fed. There, 'tis finished now, very nigh, and the sharpness done. And don't you fear, Steve, as ever I'll trouble you no more.
I be a-going to fetch him down. That's what I'm a-going to do.
I push her back into the chair. Hearken you, Steve, he's never got to know as I've been here.
I tell you, May, I'll screech till he do come.
I lay my hand on her. I'll put summat in your mouth as'll stop you if you start screeching, mother. I hark you here. 'Tis enough of this old place as I've had this night, and 'tis out upon the roads as I be going. The old woman, there's nowt much changed in she, and Steve, well, Steve be wonderful hard in the soul of him. Can I get you an old sack, says he, and never so much as a seed 'twas I. 'Tis more than enough to turn the stomach in any one, it is. I was never a meek one as to could bide at the fireside for long. The four walls of this here room are very near done for me now, so they have. And 'tis the air blowing free upon the road as I craves. Ah, and the wind which hollers, so that the cries of we be less nor they of lambs new born.
God bless you, May, and if you goes beyond the door, 'tis the mealy-faced jade will get in come morning for Steve to wed.
So 'tis. And if I stopped would be the same. Her would be between us always, the pretty caged bird. But look you here on I, mother, and here, and here, and here, and see what's been done, what's knocked about in the world along the roads, and then think if I be such a one as might hold the love of Steve.
Oh, do not you go for to leave your old mammy again. What has mourned you as if you was dead all these years? Stop with I, my pretty child. Stop along your old mother, for the days of I be few and numbered, and the enemies be thick upon the land.
Hark you here, mother, and keep your screeching till another time. I wants to slip out quiet so as Steve and the old woman won't never know as I've been nigh. And if you keeps your mouth shut, maybe I'll drop in at our own place on the hill one of these days and bide comfortable along of you now. Only now, I'm off. Do you hear?
I can't abide for you to go. There's more than I can stand. Why, if you goes, mate, it's t'other wench and the old woman what'll get mistress in here again in your place. No, you shan't go. I'll holler till I wake them all, everyone, you shan't.
Look you here, mother. Bide still, I say. I look round the room distractedly. See here, 'tis rare dry as I be. You bide quiet and us'll have a drink together, that us will. Look, the old woman forgot to put away the bottle. Us'll wet our mouths, nice and quiet. Mother, she won't hear I taking out the cork nor nothing, see? I fill a glass and hand it to my mother.
'Tis rare dry and parched as I be. Now I comes to think on it, May.
That's right. Drink your fill, mother.
'Tis pleasant for I to see you mistress in here again, May.
Ah, 'tis my own drink and all, come to that.
So 'tis.
Take and drink this little bit more, mother.
I drink, and then I lean back in my chair.
Her'll sleep very light now, and when her wakes, I take it 'twill appear as though she'd been and dreamt summat.
You sit anigh me, May. Night be a wild one. I would not have you be on the roads.
No, the roads be fine on nights when the tempest moves in the trees above, and rain falls into the mouth of you and lies with a good taste on your tongue. And you goes quick on through it till you comes to where the lights do blink. And 'tis a large town, and there be folk moving this way and that, and the music playing. Great fowls and horses, what's got clocks to the inside of they, a stirring them up for to run, and girls and men are riding on them. And the booths with red sugar and white, all lit, and animals as wild a roaring and a biting in the tents. And girls what's dancing, standing there in satin gowns all over gold and silver. And you walks to and fro in it all, and 'tis good to be there and free. And 'tis better to be in such places and to come and to go where you have a mind than to be cooped up in here with the old woman and all. 'Tis a fine life as you lives on the roads, and 'tis a better one nor this, I can tell you, mother.
I ken 'tis so. 'Tis prime in the freshening of the day. I count I'll go along with you come morning.
That's it, mother. That's it. Us'll take a bit of sleep afore we sets off, won't us? And when morning comes, us'll open the door and go out.
As it, when 'tis day, my head falls to one side. I am asleep.
I come into the room from the staircase. Granny, 'tis the new year. I'm come down to see to the fire and to get breakfast for Dad and Grandma. Why, Granny, you're sleeping still. And where's that poor tramp gone off to? Oh, there you are. Are you going out on the road afore 'tis got light?
And that I be. 'Tis very nigh to daybreak, so 'tis.
Stop a moment. Daddy, the tramp woman, she's moving off already.
Then give her a bit of bread to take along as she. I don't care that anyone should go hungered this day.
There, you bide a minute whilst I cuts the loaf. My dad's going to get married this day, and he don't care that anyone should go hungry. I fetched the loaf from the pantry and cut it at the table. The snow's very nigh gone, and 'tis like as not as the sun may come out presently. Here's a piece of bread to take along with you. There, it's a good big piece, take and eat it.
I stretch out my hand and take the bread and put it beneath my shawl. And so there's going to be a wedding here today.
'Tis my dad is to be married.
'Tis poor work, is twice marrying.
My dad's ever so pleased. I hadn't seen him so pleased as I can remember I hadn't.
Then maybe the second choosing be the best.
Yes, 'tis. Grandma says it is. And Dad, he'd be ever so fond of Miss Sims, and I be too.
Then you've no wish to call her as who should come back to you like?
What's that you're saying?
You don't never want as your mammy what you've lost should be amongst you as before.
I never knowed my mammy. Grandma says as she had got something bad in her blood, and Granny's got the same. But Miss Sims, she's ever so nice to me and Dad, and I'm real pleased as she's coming to stop along of us, always after that they are married like.
And the old woman, what's your grandma, Dorry?
However, did you know I was called Dorry?
I heard them call you so last night.
And whatever do you want to know about Grandma?
What have her got to say about the wench what's going to marry your dad?
Oh, Grandma, she thinks ever such a lot of Miss Sims, and she says as how poor Dad has been served so bad. We'll find out soon what 'tis to have a real decent wife, and what'll help with the work and all, and what won't lower him by her ways, nor nothing.
Look you here, 'tis growing day. I must be getting off and onto the road.
I'll unbolt the door. Oh, 'tis fine and daylight now.
I turn back at the doorway and look in at the room. I suppose you wouldn't like to touch me for good luck, Dorry?
No, I shouldn't. Grandma, she don't let me go nigh road people as a rule. She's afraid as I should take something from them, I suppose.
Then just say as you wishes me well, Dorry.
I'll wish you a good new year then. And Grandma said as I was to watch you as you cleared off the place.
I go out softly and quickly.
I watch her until she is out of sight and then shut the door.
Act 3, Scene 1. The same room. It is nearly midday and the room is full of sunshine. Jane Browning in her best dress is fastening Dorry's frock.
Dad's been a rare long time a cleaning off himself up, Gran.
Will you bide still? However's this frock to get fastened and you moving this way and that like some live eel? And just see what a mark you've made on the elbow last night, putting your arm down somewhere where you didn't ought to. I might just as well have never washed the thing.
Granny's sound asleep still. She'll have to be awake time we goes along to the church.
That her shan't be. Her shall just bide and sleep the drink out of her shall. Do you think as I didn't know who 'twas that had got at the bottle as Dad left on the dresser last night?
Poor Gran, she do take a drop now and then.
Shame on the old gypsy. Her shall be left to bide till her have slept off some of the nonsense which is in her.
Gran, you do say a lot of funny things sometimes, don't she now?
You get and put on your hat and button your gloves and let the old gypsy be. We can send her off home when 'tis afternoon and us back from church. Now, where did I lay that bonnet? Ah, it is. I begin to tie up the strings before a small mirror on the wall.
I come downstairs in my shirt sleeves carrying my coat.
Why, Dad, you look rare pleased at summer.
And when's a man to look pleased if 'tis not on his wedding morn, Dorry?
That tramp what was here did say as how 'twas poor work twice marrying, but you don't find it to be so, Dad, do you now?
And that I don't, my little wench. 'Tis as nigh heaven as I be like to touch, and that's how 'tis with me.
I take Steve's coat from him. 'Tis a different set altogether this time, that it is. 'Tis a marrying into your own rank like, and no mixing up with they trolloping gypsies.
Was my own mammy a trolloping gypsy, Gran?
I begin to brush Steve's coat. Much the same pattern as the old woman what's drunk asleep against the fireside. Here, button up them gloves. It's time we was off.
I do like Miss Sims. She do have nice things on her. When I grows up, I'd like to look as she do, so I would.
There, mother, that'll do. I'd best put him on now.
I hold the coat out for Steve. Well, and you got yourself up rare smart, Steve.
'Tis rare smart as I be feeling, mother. I'm all a kind of dazzle within me, same as 'tis with the sun upon the snow out yonder.
Why, look, there's Steve coming along the path already.
He's wearing the flower Rosie gave him last night.
I open the door. Good morning, George. A first-class New Year to you. You're welcome if ever a man was.
You bide where you do stand, George, till your feet is dry. My floor was fresh wiped over this morning.
I stays standing on the doormat. All right, Mrs. Browning, don't you fluster. Good morning, Dorry. How be you today, Steve?
Dorry, you come upstairs along with me and get your coat put on, so as your frock ain't crushed.
Oh, I wish I could go so that my nice frock was seen and no coat.
I go upstairs with Dorry.
I rubs me feet on the mat and comes into the room. I walks up and down once or twice restlessly.
I have lit a pipe and am smoking. Why, George, be you out of sorts this morning? You don't look up to much, that's the truth.
I stops before Steve. Hark you, Steve. 'Tis on my mind to ask you somewhat of you. Did you have much speech with the poor thing what you took in from the snow last night?
No, George, and that I didn't. I was mostly in a kind of drunken sleep all the time and not to be got out from she. Mother had tried, but it was like to get water from the pump yonder when 'tis froze.
Well, your mother's a poor one at melting ice, Steve, and 'tis what we all knows.
Oh, 'twasn't much as we could do for the likes of she, what was a regular roadster. Bad herbs, all of them. If it hadn't been so as 'twas my wedding eve, this one shouldn't have set foot inside the house. But 'tis a season when a man's took a bit soft and foolish like the night before his marriage, ain't that so, George?
Yeah. And when was it, Steve, as she went off from here?
Well, that I couldn't rightly say, George, but I counts 'twas about daybreak, and 'twas Dorry what seed her off the place, gived her a piece of bread to take along with her.
And do you think as she got talking a lot to Dorry, Steve?
And blessed if I do know, George. I never gived another thought to she. What's up?
They was getting the body of her from out of Simon's pool as I did come by. That's all.
Simon's pool?
I count her must have went across the plank afore 'twas fairly daylight, and being slippery like from the snow and her, as you did say.
In liquor.
I reckon as her missed her footing like.
Well, upon my word, George, who'd have thought on such a thing?
I count as her had been in the water and below the ice a smartish while afore they catch sight of she.
Well, 'tis a cold finish to a hot life.
They took and laid her on the grass, Steve, as I come by.
If it had been me, I'd have turned the head of me t'other side.
There was summat in the fashion her was laid, Steve, as drawed I near for to get a sight of the face of she.
Well, I shouldn't have much cared for that, George.
Steve, now did you get a look into the eyes of yon poor thing last night?
No. No wanted for to, neither.
There was naught to make you think of.
Of what, George?
There, Steve, I can't get it out. I can't.
Then let it bide in.
'Twas the way her was laid, and the long arms of she, and the hands which was clapped one unto t'other, as it might be in church.
You shut up, George. Here's Annie with Rose a-coming up the door. Don't you get saying another word about yon poor wench, nor the end of her. I wouldn't have my Annie upset for all the world today. 'Tis a thing as must not be spoke of afore they, nor Dorry neither, you hear? I moved towards the door and put my hand on the latch.
Hold back, Steve, a minute. There's something more as I've got to say.
You take and shut your mouth up, old George, before I opens the door to the girls.
What is bound for to come from me afore you goes along to church, Steve?
I warrant 'twill keep till us do come home again, George. I throw the door wide open with a joyous movement. Well, Annie, this is a rare surprise, and that's the truth.
Father, he's outside, and Jim and Bill and Katie and all the rest. We said as 'twould be pleasanter if we was all to go up to the church together.
So 'twould be. So 'twas a grand thought of yon, Rosie.
Steve.
Take Annie's hand. Annie, I am fair beside myself this day.
Oh, Steve, there was never a day in my life like this one.
I come downstairs with Dorry.
Oh, Miss Sims, you do look nice. Grandma, don't Miss Sims look nice? And Rosie too. Oh, they have nice gowns and hats on, haven't they, Dad?
I don't see no gowns nor hats, that's the truth, but I see summat what's like a meadow of grass in the springtime before the sun's got onto it.
Why, Dad, 'tis white, not green, as Miss Sims is wearing.
'Tis in the eyes of her as I finds my meadow.
Oh, let me see, Dad. Let me look too.
I go up to George, who's been standing aloof and moody in the background. Come, Mr. Davis, we must have a look too.
Oh, get along, get along. We haven't time for such foolishness. It'd be close on 12 already.
Oh, let me be, all of you. I declare I don't know which way to look, I don't.
I'll show you, Annie, then.
Well, Mr. Davis, you don't seem over bright this morning.
'Tis with the nerves as he betook.
Look at what he's wearing in his buttonhole, Rosie.
Oh, 'tis kept beautiful and fresh.
Come on, all of you. 'Tis time we was at the church.
Hark to him. He's in a rare hurry to get out of the house today.
Bain't the old lady a-coming?
Oh, that she bait, the old drinking gypsy. 'Tis at the spirits as I got in the night and put away very near the best part of a bottle. Now she best less to sleep it off, she be.
Come on, George. Come, Dorry.
Oh, isn't it a pity Granny will get at the drink, Mr. Davis? And isn't Miss Sims nice in her white dress? And don't Dad look smiling and pleased? I never did know Dad smile like this before.
Come on, Dorry. And you take hold of me. You and me, we'll keep nigh one to t'other this day, won't us?
Come on, Mr. Davis.
Act 3, Scene 2. An hour later, the cottage room is full of sunlight. Vashti Reed is just waking up. Someone knocks repeatedly at the door.
Ah, 'tis no bit of rest as I gets for my bones, but they must come and hustle I and call I from the dreams which was soft.
The knocking is heard again.
I let myself in. Beg pardon, old missus, but I couldn't make no one near me.
Well, and what be you as comed into this room?
'Tis Moss I be called, old missus, and as I was a-going by this place, I thought as I'd look in a moment just for to ask how 'twas with May.
They be all gone out from the house, all of them. They be in clothes what to lie in boxes most of the time, with lumps of white among they. Then be set out in the best as they has, and in grand things of many colours. There 'tis.
And be you the old lady, what, Steve's mother?
I be not, sir. 'Tis mother to May, as I be. May what's come back, and what'll set t'other old vixen in her place soon as they get home.
Then May, she be gone out too, have her?
I counts as there be gone to church along at others.
To church, missus?
Yeah, there's marrying being done down here today.
Marrying be there. Well, but I was most feared as how it might have been t'other thing.
Ah, that there be marrying. But there ain't no more victuals got into the house as I knows of. The old woman's seen to that.
And be May gone out too, along of them, to see the marrying?
Counts as there be, but there's coming back in a little while, and you may sit down and bide till she does.
I'd sooner be about and on my way, missus, if 'tis all the same to you, but I thanks you kindly. And you get and tell May when she do come home, 'tis particular glad I be for to know as her bain't took worse nor nothing. And should I happen to be in these parts again, 'tis very likely as I'll look in on she some day.
I'll have got t'other old baggage set in the right place by then.
I look around me. Well, I be rare pleased to think of May so comfortable like, for her was got down terrible low.
Oh, t'other'll be brought it lower.
Look you here, old missus. 'Tis a stomach full of naught as I carries, if so be as you has a crust to spare.
There be a plate of meat inside that cupboard. You take and fill your belly with it.
Thank you kindly, missus, but I counts I ain't the time for a heavy feeding this morning.
'Twould serve she right, the old sinner, for the place to be licked up clean against the time when her was come back, so 'twould.
Well, missus, You can tell May 'tis a brave new year as I do wish ye.
The church bells ring.
There they be. Oh, hearken to them. 'Tis with bells as they be coming out. Bells, what's ringing? Oh, I count 'tis fine as May do look now in her marriage gown. Hearken, 'tis the bells a shaking of the window pane. Oh, I be an old woman, but the hearing of me bain't spoiled.
Oh, I warrant it bain't, missus. Why, they're ringing wonderful smart. 'Tis enough, upon my word, for to fetch down every stone of the old place.
Get you out upon the garden path and tell I if you sees them a-coming.
That's it, old missus. And so I will.
And when they was all laid low and the heads of them bowed, I passed among they, and them did quail and crouch, being with fear. And me and mine did reach the place what was on the top. See now yourselves, I says, if so be that you do not go in blindness and in dark. 'Twas May what stood there aside of I. And look you, I says, over the bended necks of you, my child shall pass. For you be done to death by the lies which growed within you and waxed till the bodies of you was fed with them and the poison did gush out from your lips. But my little child stood in the light, and the hands of her was about the stars.
Look, they be all a-coming over the meadow, old missus. But May ain't come with they. May ain't come too.
You fair maid must come along with me. Well, I'll give you gold, I'll give you pearls, I'll give you costly rich robes to wear. If you will grant me a little word and give me time, my life to amend, and give me time, my life to amend.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Tapping on mute is really fun.
Okay, recording is paused. I guess it is with you as well, Graham. Well done, everybody.
Oh, never again.
Yeah,
Never